There's a silent killer lurking in the background of your Google Ads account, which you probably have no idea about. I call this branded traffic. Now, hear me out. I have nothing against branded traffic, and I personally believe it's a very realistic and viable thing to go after branded traffic. But it's the brands that don't understand how the Google Ads algorithm actually works and how branded traffic influences the Google Ads algorithm that actually suffer. So in this video, I'm going to explain this silence killer for you so you know exactly what's going on within your Google Ads account and you don't end up wasting your money on just branded traffic. Now, first and foremost, any campaign that's branded plus non-branded traffic, specifically performance max campaigns. And the way to find out, by the way, is to go to your campaign settings. Whoever maybe you have set up your campaigns or your team has, whatever it may be, just go into your settings and under customer acquisition, there should be a clear message which tells you if it's bidding for only new customers or if it's bidding equally for new customers and existing ones. If you see existing and new customers, this message right here, that simply means your performance max campaign, any campaign that says this, by the way, is going after branded traffic along with retargeting. That's the first telltale sign that your account is going after branded traffic. Now, the reason why this approach generally is not a right approach and is an approach you should avoid if your main goal is cold traffic acquisition is because what you want to understand, anytime you have this option chosen, especially for a smart bidding based campaign, Google 9 times out of 10 will prefer going after branded traffic first and foremost, and then it will go after cold traffic. The reason is this right here, bidding. If you have a target ROAS set, or even if you don't have a target ROAS set, Google understands that it has certain requirements that it needs to meet in terms of results so that you continue giving the Google Ads platform more money. And number one kind of criteria which the platform is aware of for e-commerce brands is the ROAS. If the ROAS is too low, if it's not hitting this value you have said right here, Google knows eventually your brand will stop spending that budget on Google. And as a result, Google's platform will stop making money from you. So what does it do? It tries to ramp about 50, 70, 90% of your budget towards branded traffic within a day to basically generate as much high ROI sales as it potentially can. And then whatever budget that's left over, that ends up going towards cold traffic. This is why it's such a big deal because number one, you can't really even track on a day-to-day basis how much of your budget is going towards branded versus non-branded with this approach. But number two, even if you were to track, you pretty much can't do much about it with these generic settings because these campaigns, especially Performance Max, it's like a black box where you can choose to go after only new customers or you can choose to bid for existing ones as well. So this is why it's a silent killer, because if you have a lot of Performance Max campaigns or if you have a lot of smart bidding based campaigns, this is generally happening in the background. And the best way to kind of know this, besides just the way the campaigns is set up, is to go on your accounts level, and then from the accounts level, go on over to the insight section. This insight section is like the golden mine for your e-commerce brand, because if you change this data to the last 28 days and if you scroll all the way down to where the keywords are shown, you will notice that if how much of this traffic is going towards branded traffic. For this example, for this brand, the first keyword, and by the way, we're not working with this brand, but the first keyword is branded traffic. Essentially, that's their own brand name. It has generated 122 sales, whereas the second one is barely 3 sales. So you can see there's such a wide gap between these values that it's almost mostly going after branded traffic in this situation. And the worst part of all is last 28 days, the actual conversions is increased by 23% for branded traffic. So the last 28 days, with whatever happened within this ad account, there has been even a greater shift towards branded traffic. A lot of the campaigns are now actually going mostly towards branded traffic. So this ROI we see right here, whatever it may be. So if we scroll all the way down and we scroll to the right, we can see that the ROAS is a 3.47x. The reality is about 60, 70, 80% of this might even be branded traffic. And that's the only reason why this account is able to spend about 8,000 pounds, generate back that 3.5x ROI. Otherwise, if it was just purely cold traffic, I highly doubt this would be the same result. So This is why it's a silent killer. This brand has turned Google Ads into a retargeting only platform. And the worst part of all is they don't even know about it. That's the worst part. That's why it's a silent killer. So what is now the best way to deal with this issue? Because chances are, if you look through your insights section, there's a pretty good chance your brand name or your brand keyword is somewhere at the very top. Now, not in every case is this a bad situation. Sometimes you have no other choice because your cold traffic keywords or just the cold traffic reach is so low that you are forced to kind of drive traffic with branded search, and then from there kind of let the Google Ads algorithm find basically lookalike audiences of that branded traffic to then go into the cold traffic and cold market to find more people like those. That's sometimes just the unfortunate situation. But in general, the ideal approach and the ideal strategy which we always take is following the 80-20 rule, which says 80% of your campaigns, whether it's smart bidding, performance max, standard shopping, whatever it is going after non-branded traffic, so cold traffic only, and 20% of your campaigns are going after branded traffic or retargeting. The best way to set this up properly is just via the settings directly, and also with other manual bidding campaigns like standard shopping, for example, or even search, adding negative keywords. That's essentially the best way to make that specific campaign into a branded or a non-branded campaign approach. But essentially, just on the accounts level, the fundamental level, letting 80% of your campaigns be non-brand is the best way to go, because what will happen with that 20% of branded traffic is the account as a whole will still use that branded traffic data to become smarter, to basically optimize off of, and then it can feed those other 80% of the campaigns which are non-branded data from those 20% of the campaigns, and it will make them smarter and go after the right people in terms of cold traffic. So in reality, on a broad level, you never end up truly mixing both of these up, and even then you are able to properly go after cold traffic, get the amount of scale needed from there, and also with branded traffic keep the ROI high as needed. So that's ideally the best approach. That's at least what we see work for the brands we work with under my agency or marketing, which if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the next level with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com, schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.